Welcome, everybody, to the brand new USA Carry podcast. So this is our inaugural episode, and we're excited about this. We're going to bring you a lot of great information as our world changes and unfortunately degrades. Our goal here with this show is to keep you informed as to the changing threats in our world, particularly for the concealed carrier, as that's what we do, certainly. My name is Salvatore. I'm a writer for USA Carry. And with me tonight is Luke McCoy. And Luke, why don't you introduce yourself?
I am Luke McCoy, owner of USA Carry. Started back in 2007, and you've been writing for years for USA Carry, huh? I'd have to look up. It's been quite a few years.
Probably 7 or 8 years now. Yeah, absolutely. So Luke is technically my boss, I suppose, in this realm. So I won't say bad things about him, at least while he's on the show.
Partners.
So. Yeah,
we'll call it
exactly. So we had a go around with podcasting previously, which I know many of our listeners will be familiar with, that being the old CCX2 show, where I was eventually invited on actually as a co-host with that show. And of course, that was a collaboration between yourself and Brandon from Concealed Nation.
Right.
And, those archived episodes are all available in a variety of places. We had a lot of fantastic guests, and we covered a lot of amazing information in that show. As it turns out, just recently, Luke, I've had a number of people email me directly saying, what happened to the old CCX2 show? And I've just replied, hang tight. There's something new in the works. So we're excited about this new.
Yeah, it just, I think our schedules got in the way and a number of other things, and we just wind up stopping it after season 3, or was it? I think it was 3, right?
Run for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I suppose.
It started in COVID because Brandon and I were just bored sitting at home, and we were like, hey, you want to do a live show? So, soon after we stopped that, I kind of had the idea to start another podcast, just USA Carry podcast, but not live, something pre-recorded to where it would work with everybody's schedules. We can have guests on. And then I kept just telling myself I didn't have time for it. And we brought it up with you a couple times. And at some point in maybe November, December, I'm like, you know what? You can be the host, run with it, and we'll go from there. So I think this format will be a lot better. We'll be, coming out with an episode every week from here on out. And,
and we'll try to act professional this time, I suppose.
We'll try.
So,
I'm drinking water.
See, so we're professional already, at least for the first episode. So the thing about the podcast format, though, is I've been on many podcasts as guest. I co-hosted the old CCX2 show with you and Brandon. The great thing about the podcast format, of course, is it allows a really deep dive into specific topics. And when you're in what remains sort of a niche realm, such as concealed carry, and that sounds strange because there's 25 million issued carry permits in the country, right? We'd say, how niche is this? The truth is, the people who really take it seriously are an infinitesimally small, a depressingly small segment of the general population. So it really is a niche thing. And the people who tune into a show like this, they're looking for good information. You as an editor of one of the top venues specifically for concealed carry, you're just on top of it all the time, the things that we see happen. Certainly some other projects I'm involved in as well, they're just monitoring things as they change. And, not a week goes by without some new incident that's absolutely insane and bizarre and crazy, and the threat keeps changing. So, listeners, we want to keep you up to date with how that threat is changing. We want to talk about the best gear, the best tactics, the best training available to keep you and your family safe. So that is really going to be the goal of this particular podcast.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it any better. That's why you're the host.
So that's what we intend to do. So speaking of which, why don't we talk a little bit about where we plan to have these, this show available?
Right. So we'll be video and audio, obviously. So it'll be YouTube, Facebook. We're going to put it on Rumble, and Clout Hub is the one you mentioned to me recently. So we
Cloud
signed up
Hub.
there. Anywhere else we can put video, if we can put it on Twitter, it'll be there. Instagram, it'll be there.
And we'll have it available on the typical audio-only podcasting
right.
platform.
So audio, we'll pump out the audio to Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I think those are the two big audio ones. So they'll be
certainly.
there as
and
well.
There's a number of others. So we'll try to make it widely available for everybody. No doubt about that. So why don't we discuss going into this, just to get people tuned back up with, the nature of the world keeps changing. We see one horrendous thing happen after another. Going forward, we're going to have a lot of great guests on. In fact, we have a number of folks lined up that joined us multiple times on the old CCX2 show. Really fantastic guests to talk about specific topics in the realm of personal self-defense. And that's what we always come to. So it's funny. I've been on a variety of shows that really cater to, whether it be, the whole survivalist, prepper scene, or, a lot of things that involve ex-military guys. And I always come back to essentially what I am. I'm a guy who's carrying a concealed handgun to protect my family on the street, right?
Yeah,
and that is what we always tie things back to. And the issue that we face now as a nation is, as things are changing, the people who have the potential to make a better out in the next event is essentially the concealed carry who's on scene. And we've seen it happen many, many times. And I want to remind people. So the firearms community in general has grown exponentially. There's a niche for everything. But if we want to stay realistic about it, what matters is you carrying your gun and knowing how to use it when you're out in public, because that is where it happen. And instead of the next headline where we have, dead bodies in the double digits, if not triple digits, with the things that may be coming our way, instead of that next headline, we want another headline about how the scumbag gets wheeled out in a bet, right? That's what we're going for. And even though we love shooting and love the gear and all those kind of things that come with it, and I know a lot of the audience loves those things as well, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And it's about the handgun in particular. Are you carrying that tool on you so that you're prepared for what we may be facing, not only at an individual level, what our communities will be facing, what our nation is now facing. So we're going to delve into those kind of topics as we go along with the show, certainly.
I guess we could get right into, what are you carrying these days?
Yeah, and that is certainly something to discuss. We'll talk a lot about this going forward, and things change, of course, right? So as our world changes, as the threats we face change, gear changes. So circling back to, again, you as the lone individual in public as a concealed carrier, what are you carrying? Things have changed so dramatically in even the last decade that I just frankly find less and less of a valid excuse for people to not be carrying weapons on.
Right.
Not wading into the discussion of, carrying in restricted areas. Most people now are fortunate enough within the continental United States. Most people live in places where they can carry legally 90% of the time. And that's what we want to see people do, So I would say we're at the point
we've got
in
almost 28 states with constitutional carry
Yeah,
now.
exactly right.
Louisiana's about to pass it. Well, it's passed. They're waiting for the governor to sign it.
So a majority of states, and in fact, I've seen the studies, the majority of the population actually now lives in places where you don't even need a permit to legally carry concealed. Now, we encourage people to get, so if you are in a constitutional carry state, by getting a permit, that's going to grant you reciprocity with, for most states, it's the majority of the rest of the country. So it's still a very valid reason to get the permit. But that's true. There's 25 million issued permits at this point, but the majority of the population actually lives in a state where you don't even need a permit to be carrying places. So we encourage people to carry. And I think we're at the point in our nation's history where you need to be carrying a real gun, preferably. So when you're out and about in public, we've been urging this for a number of years. all of the small options are great to stay armed all the time. But when you're out with the family, when you're in crowds, carry a gun you can fight with. And we've talked about that in a number of things. Currently, I'm carrying essentially the same gun that's been my main carry gun for the past decade. That's a Glock 26. Sometimes it's a 19. I carry a Glock 26. The reason for that is that's a gun that has fallen out of favor with a lot of people because the argument is with new guns like the SIG 365, the Hellcat, Glock 48, like these other options that are significantly smaller. Why do you bother with the 26 anymore? For me, it's a full frame gun. So even though it's shorter in both dimensions than the 19 or the 17, it takes those magazines. And that is really the reason I've always loved the 26. And the width for me, everybody's different with this. The width for me doesn't really mean. The length of the grip tends to match. So I carry a 26 with 12 rounders in it. Even that gives me a full firing grip, yet it's a lot easier, believe it or not, to conceal than even a 19. So that's what I generally use. I don't give up much in performance. I can shoot it almost as well as a 19. So that's what I'm carrying. And most of the time I'm carrying a second magazine. And usually it's a 20 round magazine, 21. So significant.
You're carrying that on your person or
on
like
my
in a
person?
bag?
Yeah,
Okay.
on my person. I carry the gun appendix, and right next to it is the spare magazine. It's typically what I'm carrying when I'm out and about. So, 12 rounds in the gun, but an extra 21 round magazine on me. And we can have all of the debates about how necessary is it for the armed citizen to carry a reload. I err on the side of I'd rather have it not be, right? So that's why I carry one. I can't fault people who say they just can't rationalize carrying the reload. That's fine. I would say it's more important to have a gun with capable capacity in the gun, and, if you don't carry a reload, then don't carry a reload. But I'm at the point now where just what I'm saying, I'm more and more inclined to always be carrying.
Gotcha.
What are you carrying?
Well, I was just going to say about the reload. So I don't carry a reload on me unless have a bag with me, either a backpack or a sling or something, which I do have with me often because that's where I usually have a lot of medical gear in it, or at least a trauma kit. I wouldn't say a lot, but a trauma kit. So I like having a bag with me. But I am carrying a SIG P365 XL with this the Filster Boresight Solution Filster grip, which I think is amazing. So I was carrying the Glock 48 for a long time, and then I sent it in to get some stippling and some slide work done because I just wanted my first fancy Glock or whatever. So when I sent that in to get worked on, I switched to this to try it out and just loved it. So when I got my Glock back like 6 months later, it took a while, it just went in the safe and just sat there. So I live in Louisiana and Nevada. I spent a week on, week off, flying back and forth. I carry a Glock 48 there, but I just ordered the same thing, so I can carry the same thing there. I got SIG 365 there, XL. Go ahead. What's up?
No, I was going to ask you because I presume a lot of people in our audience would probably be curious about this. You test a lot of guns. I really don't do that at all. So, right. I carry the same thing I've carried essentially for the past, 2 decades at this point. So you've put hands on pretty much all of the new generation of what we call like stack and a half guns, the magic that basically started with the
micro nines, is that what they're calling
the micro nines, right? In your overall assessment, how much difference is there between them? Which ones do you like? And what's your assessment of the shootability? And the reason I'm prying this out of you is, again, these micro nines are to the point where it's giving people really very little excuse to not be carrying serious guns. You know what I mean? Because they're so capable at this size. So what's your impression of them overall? How do they compare to, say, a Glock 19, 17?
So I was carrying a Glock 19 for a while with a light, red dot. To me now, that's just too much. It's too, and that's personal. I don't want to carry a big gun with a light on it and have all that heaviness on me. when the Hellcat came out and the SIG 365 came out, I was carrying a Hellcat for a while. So I went from Glock 19 down to that smaller size, but then switched up to a Glock 48, which is pretty much the same size as the Glock 19, but thinner. And I thought that was like a perfect in-between size. Then I got the 365. When I put this grip on it and went and shot it, I just love this size. I can get a full grip on it. And the recoil control, I know it does have the compensator on it, but the recoil control was awesome. So when I feel like when I went down to the Hellcat size, those guns were pretty snappy. They were shootable, but they were snappy. So I feel like going up a little bit bigger, I can conceal this perfectly. I'm either carrying this with my Filster Pro holster if I'm wearing a belt, or I'm carrying it with the Enigma.
Yeah.
And I also carry it with the sport belt, and I've got a tourniquet in here. So even with my Glock 48, that pretty much vanishes when I'm carrying it. And I can be in gym shorts, and just a t-shirt, and you just don't see it. I feel like that size is just the sweet spot between the small micro 9s and a full like Glock 19 size subcompact gun for me anyway.
Okay.
I'm 5'9". I fluctuate between. I was pushing about 180 a few months ago. I'm around 170. Anywhere between there, I was able to conceal this with no problem whatsoever. And I don't feel like I have a big giant rock on me. I know you said you carry a mag in the front, but just the gun, no light, red dot, tourniquet on the back, and I'm good to go.
And just remind me how much. What's the capacity in that gun?
This is 12 rounds, and in the Glock 48, I'm using the Shield Arms S15 mag, so that's 15 rounds. So going from the Glock 48 down to the 365 XL, I'm losing 3 rounds, but I'm okay with that. 12 rounds is fine with me.
It is.
Like I said, usually I've got some kind of sling bag on me, whether it's my laptop bag or a smaller bag. And if I do have a bag on me, I'll throw another magazine on it, and it's usually the extended magazine, so I think that one gives you 15, I want to say, for the 365 XL.
Right. So. Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about, I don't think people, unless they've put hands on these guns, how small they actually are, so we're talking about really small guns, but it's giving you capability without even a reload on your body. You've got 12 or 15 rounds in a package that disappears in anything you're wearing. Essentially the 26 disappears for me in anything, so again, the width never has bothered me much. A lot of people, though, it bothers. And we're just in the golden age, though, of carry guns, where we have these very thin guns, yet they have significant capacity. So what I circle back to with this is, if we're able to now at this point carry guns that you can really fight with, because why else are we carrying them? This whole thing of 3 rounds, 3 yards, 3 seconds, etc. The gist of that is, yes, the typical civilian shootout is a low round count, very brief affair, the typical one. But I remind people, we are seeing more and more and more things that are no longer typical. They're just not. The threat has changed. We have more and more active killers who go on rampages. You want a gun that you can shoot well, and you want significant capacity in the gun. Carrying a reload is just, icing on the cake. What's more important is having a gun with significant capacity, because we see it happen over and over and over again. John Correa talks about this a lot at Active Self-Protection. Basically, people shoot to slide lock, and then everybody runs away, and the fight's over most often, so capacity in the gun is important. So my point being, you have small options now that are 9mm that shoot well. I shot the SIG 365 and the older, the Smith & Wesson Shield. Now, that was a game changer at that point. Of course, it carried less ammo. It was like a 7 or 8 round capacity. Now the Shield Plus is slightly bigger, and it's like a 12 or 13 round capacity. I was amazed how well the Shield, the old Smith & Wesson Shield, how well it shot. I was really
a good gun.
Yeah,
and
it's
the
a
cost
great
was
gun.
awesome. I mean, you were getting those for like $250, $300.
Eventually, I mean, there were more when they came out,
right.
and they were the hot thing, you know. But this is what we have available to us. So, as we wade into a future of more and more, unfortunately, mass attack, active killers, etc., would you rather be carrying a 5-shot J-frame or something that essentially is not much bigger, you know, with 15 rounds? You know, so these are things to consider. And again, I love revolvers. Anybody who reads my work on USA Carry, talk about them all the time. I carry one a lot. You know, it's still my real, true, deep concealment gun. Love revolvers, but again, if I'm out public, especially with the family, I want to carry something that if I need to fight, something I can fight with.
You know, I've recently got another Ruger LCP and just LCR, excuse me, and been carrying the revolver a little bit more, but pretty much just to go take the trash out, like a take the trash out gun.
You cannot
something
beat them
quick
for that. Around the house,
you know,
something quick. Yep.
Well, I don't think even putting the Enigma on takes all that long. It's just something I wanted to start messing with, train with, and get good with, because I haven't typically shot revolvers a whole lot. So, but yeah, I like it, but I'm not going to go visit my mom in New Orleans with a 5-shot LCR.
Right.
I'll have this on me and probably that Rattler in a briefcase bag if I'm going to New Orleans. Just, you never know.
And we're not, you know, we're not disrespecting the choice to only carry a revolver. If you like a revolver, and if it's a gun you carry all the time and you wouldn't carry anything else all the time, you're way ahead of the curve just being armed. There's no denying.
Just be able to shoot whatever you're carrying.
Yeah, right? and practice with it, you know, and have confidence in it. But we're at the point with firearms technology where if you want to be able to carry something more significant, gives you more capability, we have packages that are so small that the pocket carry and even ankle carry is where truly the revolver is still just unbeatable, in my opinion. But anything you're putting actually on your waist, now with solutions like the Filster Enigma, etc., man, these only slightly larger autoloaders honestly carry just as small as a revolver at least in my experience. You know,
that's why, like I said, I went, you know, when the Hellcat and the 365 came out, it's cool. Small gun, a bunch of rounds, but I feel like the XL and the 48 is my kind of sweet size. It conceals. It's easy to shoot. It's not as, this one, I can say at least it's not as snappy as all those, the smaller guns. And I'd rather have a gun that's easy to shoot, that has more rounds and give me a better grip on it.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, no question. Now, you know, your mindset and your skills and your tactics trump the gear you carry. There's no question, but it's important now, this day and age, to be carrying capable gear. You know, and speaking of which, Luke, what else are you carrying besides the gun?
A gun? So like I said, if I just have that Enigma on, I've at least got a tourniquet on me. If I'm in my car, I have a full med kit that's always in the car, whether I'm in Louisiana or Nevada. In my bags, I have a trauma kit. So chest seals, gauze, hemostatic agent, a tourniquet, another tourniquet in there. And I usually have, what's the last, is that the SWAT tees that are the wrap?
Yes.
Am I saying that right?
So I have one of those. It's like a rubber tire, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. The bags I've been using are either Vertex bags or these alpaca bags, which I've got a liking to. And they have a slot in the back that's pretty thin. So I can just kind of stack all this thin trauma gear and then use the rest of the compartments for whatever else I'm carrying, my laptop or whatever. So I try to at least have a full trauma kit on me if I have a bag. And if I don't have a bag on me, I at least have a tourniquet on me and usually something in the car that I can get to. So,
and we can't stress this enough. And we've certainly discussed this before, and we've written a lot about it, the importance of carrying trauma. So when we refer to medical gear, we're talking about gear that allows you to stop life-threatening hemorrhage long enough for responders to get there, right? And statistically, you're far more likely actually to use the medical gear than you are your gun. You know, how many traffic accidents have most people come across compared to how many gunfights they've been in, So we always come back to that. So whether it's for violence or just accidents, industrial accidents, workplace accidents, car accidents in particular, having the trauma gear with you is very important. I'm a believer of actually having it on person. I always have a softy wide tourniquet and a pack of combat gauze, the hemostatic gauze, and that's so small. I literally carry them both in a pocket now. I've done the ankle rig thing for a while, and I just gave up on it. I just could never get one to really work well for me. I know a lot of guys who carry them all the time.
I carry one. I'll use that sometimes. If just depends on where I'm going. So I have a few different modes of carrying medical gear on me, whether it's the ankle or in a bag or just like. So depending on where I'm going and what I'm carrying that day, I have an option to. All right, so if I have jeans, I usually only use the ankle kit if I have jeans because you kind of hides some of the bulge, in my opinion. I don't carry that way very often. But
and you need to be wearing the right pants for it to even work, obviously.
Right. But for Super Bowl Sunday, we were going to me and my girlfriend went to a bar, met some friends, watched the game. I couldn't carry there because I was drinking, but I did have the ankle kit on. I was wearing jeans and I had an ankle kit on, so that was available for me to carry, and I had something on me.
Yeah, significant medical capability. So the tourniquet, and the second priority for medical is going to be your packing gauze, hemostatic or regular gauze. In fact, now research shows that even regular gauze works about 90-95% as well. This is the hemostatic stuff, So tourniquet, the packing gauze, those are your mission essential trauma gear, because anything that is catastrophic damage to a limb, the tourniquet's going to take care of that. The packing gauze is what's needed for a junctional area. And realistically, at the scene, that's our main concern. You can't pack the chest cavity or something like that anyway. If you have chest seals on you, great. If not, I'll remind people that what we mainly worry about with that is stopping what's called tension pneumothorax that can build up when the chest wall is ruptured. It allows air in and lung can collapse. It usually takes 20 to 40 minutes for that condition to even occur anyway, following the wound. So again, if we're prioritizing the things that make a difference at the scene, right? The tourniquet, you can bleed to death in 3 to 5 minutes from an extremity wound. And I'll remind people you can pass out in 30 seconds from blood loss, to say your femoral artery. So the ability to get a tourniquet on very quickly is priority number one medically. And again, second priority is it's statistically less likely to need it, but if you need it, it's essential the ability to pack something in the neck, in the groin, etc., pack a wound and stop the bleeding. So carry your gun, absolutely, but if you're going to, carry something else, I really strongly encourage people to carry a tourniquet, packing gauze if you can make it work. Certainly have full-blown med kit. Yeah, and know how to use it. Have a full-blown big trauma kit in your vehicle, certainly. Yep, absolutely.
I was just going to mention knowing how to use it. So Stop the Bleed classes, which you can usually find for free, or you might be able to find for free. TCCC certified. And then Mountain Man Medical, they have a free online course that you can go through and learn how to use a tourniquet and pack wounds and all that stuff. I know it's hands-on is better, but
it's better, certainly. But it's a great resource. I've watched that. Actually, they have a second one available online, and they charge like $2 for something specifically for range emergencies. I've watched that one too. All great information. But this is something I take very seriously, and I encourage people to get training with this. I've taken numerous 1 and 2 day iterations of TCCC trick, and just like I've taken so many shooting classes, it always amazes me when a lot of people who've taken multiple shooting classes have never taken any medical classes at all, and if they have, maybe they've taken one. It's just like shooting classes. Every time you take one of these medical classes, you pick something new up, right? You pick something up from the different presentation, from the different instructor. I just took one about 2 months ago, actually. Was really good. 1 day, a TCCC class, very good. the guy teaching it was an ex-special forces medic. And when you get guys with that level of experience, they have a lot to show. And there's no compromise for hands-on. So I encourage people, please get out. If nothing else, the 2-hour stop the bleed courses, your local firehouse may teach them, etc. But better yet is if you could get to a 1 or 2 day TCCC class.
Right.
Yep. And be prepared for the things that you may find, again, maybe not related at all to violence, right? More likely not even related to violence. So it's a skill you want to have. The final thing I'd mention for a really important carry gear is a handheld light.
Yeah.
I know you carry one all the time too, I'm sure. Weapon mounting light, totally optional for a carry gun. You can't pull out your gun and point the light at things like if you lose your keys, that kind of thing. But the handheld, is I don't, even in broad daylight, I don't leave the house without a handheld light on my person. Extremely important and valuable self-defense item, as well as just a general preparedness item.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I carry my Stiletto Pro pretty much everywhere I go. It's just easy to carry. It actually got dinged at the airport recently because they didn't know what it was, and they finally took it out. And I'm like, really?
Is it the shape?
I'm like, I fly. I'm like, I fly once a week, and I've flown with that thing for a while. And it's never gotten dinged in there. And I'm like, what is in that bag? And I'm thinking it was just one of my little sling bags. And I'm like, I'm like, there's no ammo in there. There's no anything in there. I'm like, what was it? And it was a flashlight. Because that was a bag that I only carry on me when I'm flying. So I knew there wasn't, was there an empty case from a range or something like that?
Oh, good grief.
I know there is no ammo in there. And it was the flashlight, but
so it must be the shape of it. Strings.
I think so. Yeah, because it's a little different than your normal light. She pulled it out and she's like, "Flashlight." I'm like, "Yeah, flashlight."
Pro tip with flashlights going through airports: typically, as long as they don't have one of the aggressive bezels on them, then you're good to go. My flying flashlight is always a good light, but with no bezels on it. And the whole bezel thing, I could care less for that anyway. I believe firmly in a good light as a good impact weapon, because it is, but the bezel is not needed at all.
Right.
So you're actually
it doesn't really have a bezel, an aggressive bezel on it. And I was like, if they take that thing, I'm not going to be happy. That's like a $230 light. I'm like, I will not be happy if they take that.
Yeah,
but they just didn't know what it was.
They just, it's, and it always depends on, I remind people with TSA, it just depends on who you get, where you are, if you're flying with firearms. I've been to so many airports where it's like you literally have to walk them through the whole process of what they're, okay, I need that orange slip now, etc. And you go other places where it's so routine, they know exactly what they're doing. That's always something. Just cover all your bases. Flashlight with no bezel on it, you're good to go. Tip, I guess something like the Stiletto, you still have to be careful with. Who would have felt?
Right.
But yeah,
what flashlight do you carry for the gear people?
Yeah, I use a Streamlight. I forget the exact model, so I use 2 different ones. The 1,000 lumen model, I think it's called the HLX or something like that. The reasons I love them is they take the rechargeable batteries. So it's the battery is the equivalent of 2 123 batteries, right? And it's rechargeable. And one thing about those is the light is always brighter with the rechargeable battery. So it obviously has a higher output. So I carry that one. It's got a fairly wide crown on it. So if I want something smaller, I carry the other one that is essentially the same size, but a smaller crown. And that's like a 500 lumen light. So, I don't freak out about it too much. 500 lumens, I'm comfortable carrying around, And the string lights are very robust. I've had several of them for years and years. They fall in all over the place. They last. I don't think I've ever had any of those particular models die. And you're talking about lights that are like $50 to $100 as opposed to the light nerds will get the Therm or the Thrum and and even some of the Surefires are pretty expensive. You want something good, but not a lot of money. The string lights really hold up. That 1,000 lumen one, I did a night class a year or two with Steve Fisher with that 1,000 lumen one. And we were all surprised how well it compared to, again, the $300 lights that some of those guys were using, So it's a great light to the money. Use the rechargeable, and those are great. Then, you have a USB rechargeable battery instead of the relatively expensive 123.
Yeah, I like the rechargeables as well. It took me a while to pull the trigger on the Stiletto Pro. I did not get that for free from anyone. But I love it. So it's my go-to.
I didn't know you buy your own gear. I thought everybody just
I do buy my own gear.
So, okay.
I do buy my own stuff sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. All right. Well, so there's an overview of the important stuff to be carrying. I'll just throw in, certainly carry a blade, whether it factors into your self-defense or not. And throughout the years, I've gone both ways. I've been the small fixed blade, forward of the hips. I did that for a few years. Honestly. Same. Yeah, honestly, I don't bother anymore, and people have heard me say this a lot and read where I've said this many times, the knife is an essential emergency rescue tool. That's why you need to carry it. Okay, somebody's stuck in a seatbelt, somebody's clothing gets stuck in machinery, somebody's snared in something, you must have cutting tool on your person. It doesn't even have to be a knife. It could be a multi-tool with a blade. I prefer multi-tool with a blade that you can open with one hand. Yeah, that's my preference.
That's what I carry. The what is it? The Leatherman
the Skeletal.
The Skeletal.
Yeah.
I love that thing. I have like 3 or 4 of them. Yeah.
Right. And you can open it with one hand. So again, it's an emergency rescue tool. Must carry it. That's part of being prepared. I was going to say in today's, that's part of preparedness all the way back to the Stone Age, right? Is a cutting tool.
You never know when you're going to get an Amazon box you got to open,
Exactly. Or if you find yourself flipped over in your vehicle in a stream and the car's filling with water and you can't get out of the seatbelt, you're going to want the cutting tool, right? Yeah. So these are the important things: your firearm, your light, medical, cutting tool, and other than that, everything else is just extras. And most important is going to be your mindset and your training to be able to use these tools. Obviously, which we will discuss extensively going forward in this show.
Couldn't agree more.
Do you want to just touch on some of the questions that we already have lined up? We could run through those to answer some questions, the kind of questions we get quite often.
Yeah, let's go. So one was, what's the heaviest? I know I think we talked about like the smallest or the smaller guns already, but what's the heaviest you would go? How big is too big?
That's an interesting question. And my personal answer has changed as firearms technology has changed, honestly. I carried for many years a full-size 1911. And I was that guy, I had no use for anything polymer, 1911 all the way. And, you're talking about 42-ounce gun. Like that Colt I carried was a 42-ounce gun. Yeah. And, and back then I carried strong side. I don't know if it would make a difference now. It just, personally, I see no reason to embrace the weight. Now, if you're a 1911 enthusiast, no problem if the weight doesn't bother you. I don't think it's the end of the world, the weight. But, here's the example I give. My Glock 26, 12 rounds in it, weighs in at like 26 ounces or something like that loaded, right? So I have almost twice the capacity at literally half the weight. That matters. When people carry their guns all day long, that actually matters. I think a lot of guys who swear that they carry these extremely heavy guns are not actually carrying them all day, with some exceptions. I know a few guys who literally carry their 1911 all day long. It can be done. For me personally, I don't see why should it be done anymore? Okay, that's technology, right? Does anybody want to carry the old, like in the 90s, the car phones? They were huge, right? You could have in your car, right? Like, why would you? Now it's still functional, right? But why would you want to Okay, so, but again, some guys are just specifically, they shoot the 1911 the best. That's what they're most comfortable carrying. So more power to them. Personally, weight is a big deal.
Yeah, I agree with that. So weight, and I just have to be able to conceal it under my normal dress, which lately has been like sweatpants and a t-shirt, or gym shorts and a t-shirt. I'd say that's like 80% of what I wear. Maybe some jeans and a t-shirt. So
right.
I don't dress in a suit. So I need to be able to carry it all day, be comfortable, but not be too small, like we already talked about that. So I feel like that's my sweet size. The biggest I'd say I ever carried was a Glock 19, and I had the light on it and the red dot, and then there was a knife on the left and had stuff. It was like Batman at some point. I had shit all over my belt, but I've gotten away from that. I just want to be comfortable and know I can shoot what I have enough rounds in it, 12 to 15 rounds, and I'm good with that. I don't want it to be too heavy. You never forget that it's there, but quote unquote, I want to forget that it's there. Like I don't want to feel it. I can strap this on with an Enigma, go practice baseball with my son. I can go to a soccer game, help out with coaching, whatever. And nobody knows I have a gun, and I'm not worried about, am I printing this, giant 19 or a full size. I've never carried a full size gun. Just my, 5'9" frame. I can't get away with it. You'd see it, so
no,
I want to be able to print. I don't want to be able to print.
You need to carry full size 1911. Okay, strong side hip with an IDPA fishing vest. That's what that's what you need to go with.
I've got one out for review. I haven't got it yet, so I'll keep an eye out for the article.
No, but that was typical. I mean, for many years, I actually carried a 1911 strong side, and when I carried that, I would have an open front, shirt. It would conceal, but it limits you to what you can wear. So, especially coming out of COVID, I mean, I always hated sweatpants or whatever's called athletic wear.
Now
right?
I
always
a bunch
hated
of
that.
them.
Yeah, now I wear them all the time. But now with solutions like the Filster Enigma, you can carry a significant gun, formidable gun in literally sweatpants and a tee, So as things have changed in that regard, I really don't have any use for carrying really heavy guns. With that said, now the shooting experience, the design is 112 years old or whatever it is at this point. The 1911 still shoots like no other. So if you want to carry it, a good belt and a good holster makes all the difference, right? So you can carry heavy guns if you have the right support gear for it.
Yeah, it's funny. I have I think it's the Springfield TRD or I forget what model is. It's a 1911. They're sending me one of the concealed carry size. So I do have one on the way that I'll test out and review, but I don't think I'll ever be carrying it regularly. I get guns to review, but I generally just switch all the time to new guns. I like carrying one thing.
Yeah.
It's like I said, that's why I bought another SIG 365 XL, because I do want the same thing here versus Nevada. I want to carry the same gun just to be consistent. And kind of rolls into the next question, but
yes,
do you only carry one gun, or depending on how you're carrying? So basically, to answer that, I carry my 48, and the revolver sometimes, maybe 5 or 10% of the time, if I was doing the math.
This is a great question. This is a really great question. So the question is essentially, okay, do you only carry one gun or more than one, depending on how you are carrying? And then they also ask revolvers. So I have for years really encouraged people to lock in on as few guns as they actually need. So I would say one gun, but what I find is most people need at least 2 carry guns if they want to be able to carry a more formidable gun when they can, right? Because inevitably you do need that super deep concealment gun as well if you want to stay armed at all times possible. So with that said, usually 2 carry guns will fit the bill. So, as an example, Glock .6 is my main carry gun, Ruger LCR when I need to really deep some concealment, or when I'm inclined to put a backup gun on person, it'll be a Ruger LCR. Okay, but honestly, those are the only 2 guns I've carried now for years, with the exception of once in a while a Glock 19, and I shoot a 19. But I find my training between the 19 and the 26 obviously quite seamless, So what I don't like is when I see people with a carry rotation where, on Monday they carry their Glock, and Tuesday it's their SIG 226, and on Wednesday it's a 1911, and on Thursday they'll carry a K-frame revolver. It's like, what are you doing, and why are you doing it? Why are you doing that? And let me just say, because I know we'll get the feedback of, I can shoot any of them just as well as soon as my hand hits them. Yeah, that's because you're only shooting at a mediocre. And I don't mean to hurt feelings, but it's absolutely true. If you look at even top shooters in the world, top competitive, they will switch guns, but it's prolonged periods of training with one gun. To absolutely, and yes, if you're a good shooter, you'll be able to shoot anything well, but you're going to give up something if you keep switching back and forth between guns. You absolutely will. And I don't think people realize that. So if you say, I shoot everything the same, you're not pushing your skills high enough to realize where that difference is, just the sheer repetitions into the same gun. They're all different. The grip size is different. The recoil impulse is different. The trigger is different. So there's a difference.
That's why I ordered another one of these to have the same thing in
Nevada. Exactly.
Because that was just bugging me, and it was just a cost thing. I hadn't bought one yet. That's what I had there, and that's what I have here, and just go with it. Can I shoot both of them well? Yes, I can shoot. I'd say I'm a little more than mediocre. But it's still in the back of my head that I want the same thing. So no matter where I'm at, pick up, put on the Enigma, it's the same gun, no matter what state I'm in. Consistency,
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would stress it's really important to avoid switching between platforms, on a daily basis that have different manuals on. I'm not a fan of, going from a striker-fired gun to a 1911. If you're shooting both all the time, I don't get too hung up with, you'll miss the safety and whatever. If you're doing it all the time, because the truth is, when you form that grip, you can form the grip that automatically sweeps that safety off on presentation and use the same grip essentially on your striker-fired gun. But again, why would you introduce the possibility of failure when you're under the worst stress of your life? Stick with the gun that works well for you, or at least within the same kind of fire. Switching from a Glock to a Walther PDB makes more sense than, again, routinely between like a Beretta 92. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So
I like guns, obviously. I like guns, but those are all safe queens or whatever you call them. Like, I shoot them at the range sometimes, but my carry guns I want consistency on that. So.
Your life-saving gear, and we encourage people to really think about that. Minimize what you're using for your life-saving gear. And we will certainly address all of these themes a lot further as we progress with this show. So the final question here, this is a good one too.
Yeah.
Do you keep a full-size gun for home defense or use your CCW? Another great question. And I would submit that I would base that on what your carry gun actually is. What do you do, Luke?
So I wouldn't mind using this as a home defense gun if I had a light on it. I want a light on my home defense gun. So here I've got a Glock 19 with a red dot and a light on it. It stays in my nightstand safe, locked up. It's locked down as well. It stays there unless I'm taking it to the range. So I always know it's there. In Vegas, I had a Glock 19, got the Echelon, the review, really liked that gun. So now it's sitting in that gun safe that's always locked. I like having a dedicated gun that stays in my nightstand safe. It needs to be locked up and it's always there. So that's what I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want something with a light on it, and I don't carry with a light. So I don't want to have to be taking a light on and off. I know it probably takes 2 seconds, but that's just me.
So I'm right there with you. I have dedicated foam handgun, right? And it has a light on it. So I see no compelling, realistic need for a weapon-mounted light for a carry gun for civilian. And in fact, a lot of the top guys in the field are starting to push back against even law enforcement with guns actually mounted on their handguns because they see too many issues go on with that. Yeah. But certainly for a civilian, on the carry gun, if it doesn't bother you having it there, then there's no downsides to it, as long as you realize you can't pull out the gun and be searching for things in the dark to identify things, pointing your muzzle. For my house gun, absolutely, I have a light on it. And the main reason for that is, realistically, when things go bump in the night, I know all kinds of guys talk about having body armor and their AR-15 and all of that. You don't put that stuff on when you're just going to check what that was, right? And we all know that. Instead, what you're doing is you're in nothing but your boxers with your hand. That's all you're taking. So I like having the whole package in it. With that said, the light on the gun, you have to know how to do it safely. You can safely search with a light on the gun, but you're not pointing it at everything. You can use what's called baseboard lighting, where you're basically, these modern weapon mounted lights, you got 1,000 lumen light, or you can point it at the ceiling and it lights up the whole room. Right. So, you can safely do it as long as you know how to do it. So I do like the light on a dedicated house gun. I like a separate house gun. I also use a Glock 19 for the house gun with a light on. So if you grab it, you've got the whole package in hand. And it's also then a separate gun from what you're routinely taking on and off throughout the day. And I think that's a good, it's just less to go wrong.
But I also keep my Stiletto Pro on my nightstand as well.
As do I. I have a handheld right next to it.
Handheld.
But I can tell you from personal experience, when things have happened, like I've had a few false alarms with the alarm system where I thought a door is breached. You know what? When I go to see what it is, all I'm bringing is the gun. So what the gun has in it and on it is what I have in hand. And I think most people will find that's what actually happens. That's why I like full-size gun, significant capacity, and the light on the gun for your house gun. And if you want to use your carry gun, that's fine. But I would submit, if you carry a real small gun, maybe a 5-round revolver or a Ruger LCP or something, then it makes sense to have the full-size dedicated gun.
Right.
So three great questions. We will wade deeply into all of these different kind of topics. I'll tell everybody that we'll address unpleasant things in this show because we have to. Our world is changing rapidly. There are threats on the horizon, and I don't want to sound like I'm fear-mongering, but we're going to see things happen. I think I'm quite convinced in the course of the next few years in this country as fallout for very bad decisions that have been made by our political leaders, very bad security that has been kept for this nation. We have a wide open border. We have hundreds of thousands of people that have infiltrated that. We have hundreds and hundreds that we know on the terrorist watch list that have been allowed right in. Okay, so things are going to happen, and the concealed carrier is more and more likely to find themselves in the middle of an event that is far beyond getting held up by the local crackhead in the Walmart parking lot. Okay, that is just the nature of our world. So we're going to have on great guests to talk about these things, and we'll wade heavily into some of these unpleasant discussions, but discussions that have to be had if you want to be on top of what's happening and what's going on. Have your finger on the pulse of what is happening in the world around you so that you're equipped to protect you and your loved ones. And that's the goal of this show, I would submit. What do you think, Luke?
I agree. Only thing I'd add is if you have any questions for us, doesn't matter what, if it's gear or whatever, you can email us at podcast@usacarry.com or just leave it in the comments of wherever you're watching this. However you want to get us your questions, get it to us. If we pick it and talk about it on the show, we'll send you a little USA Carry swag bag. It might have a hat, some stickers and patches or something in it. And yeah, I think that might be wrapping up our first episode of the USA Carry podcast.
Certainly. We'll have a lot of great information on deck coming out. So stay tuned. Good guest, good discussion. Again, some things that we don't want to have to talk about, but we have to talk about. So we want to keep everybody informed as to what's going on so that you can stay prepared to live in the world that we live in, right? It's not the world we want, it's the world we have. So we need to be ready to deal with whatever comes our way. So we know everybody tuning into a show like this is on board with that, and we'll give you the best possible information that we can.
Cool. Sounds good. And we'll see him next week, right?
Absolutely. Sounds good. Everybody stay safe. Carry your gun, people. Carry your gun everywhere and your other important gear. Get out and get training if you have not done so, and continue to do so. And join us next week. We'll get into some important topics.